Okay, we're going to start talking about dimensioning this week. Um, I know we covered it a little bit in the 1101 class, but here we're going to get a little bit more into detail with it. And to start with, let's talk about dimension styles. And you'll have a handout there in, in Blackboard on creating a dimension style and then how to, you can create it in the template that I've provided you with for this class if you want to. I would recommend doing that and then save that template or that file as a DWG file. Either way, I don't really care. Save that and then use that going forward so it'll have your dimension style in there. Also, there's a video on how to copy that dimension style into an existing drawing using the Design Center. One thing to be aware of is you cannot copy a dimension style from an imperial drawing into a metric drawing because the settings are totally different and it just will not work. So a dimension style, you can either go to the Annotate tab and then hit the pull down right here under dimensions, or you can type in dim style, D-I-M-S-T, and that'll start it. And what you're going to see is you're going to see this annotative style and a standard style. We're going to create the decimal style, and to do that, let's say we do there and we go new, and it asks for the new style, and so you put a name, and you want to start with the standard style, and it is not annotative, and we're going to use it for all dimensions. The options here is you can have different dimension styles for different types of dimensions. Okay. And in particularly, ordinate and tolerancing, that plays a big deal. I've seen some books and some places where they would have a large radius dimension style and a small radius dimension style. But we're just going to leave it set for all dimensions for right now. And then you would hit continue. And then what that will do is bring up these screens right here. And I've already created this one and set it up. And so the handout, you'll go through the handout page by page, and it will cover these first 5 tabs. And then you'll make all of these settings based on what's in the handout. And don't worry about these colors or this line type that is showing up, because that's totally based on whatever the current line type or layer is in your program, whatever you've got open. So you'll set up that dimension style. And I'll reiterate what I have said previously. Annotative dimension styles are for architectural drawing where you're going to be dimensioning in model space. Now there will be a few assignments where we will dimension in model space for a mechanical drawing, but I will tell you which ones those are. Okay. And they're unusual. Usually it's the ordinate dimensioning or rectangular coordinate dimensioning. But then you have to adjust the sizes of all of your settings. Okay. Now I also created a dimension style here and I call it dim centerline. And the only difference between it and the decimal style is right here under center marks is I turn on line, okay, which means it will create a center line for me. All right, so I'm just going to OK out of that and close that. Now let's talk about center marks again. I've got one video that you should be watched about using the center mark tool and the center line tool and the settings on how to you can In the video, I show how to change the program defaults for your. It may work in your template if you set it up and save your template. But I go through the instructions on how to set those up. Okay, so and we cover this a pretty good bit in 1101. That's one way of doing those. Okay. The other way, like I said, was with that dimension style that I created, the dim center line, and then I can use the command dim center and then click a circle or an arc, and it places a center mark in there that is just lines, just line types is all it is. And in some of the assignments, you're going to need a center line that is just a line. You don't want the whole center mark thing. But that's one way to, that's another way to do that. Now, let's talk about dimensioning again. Dimensions can either be associative or non-associative. You want them to be associative so that should your object change sizes, the dimension will change automatically with that. Okay. Now, in this particular file, let me just get back over to my layers. In this particular file I'm working in, I changed the layer color for my dimension layer to yellow. Okay, so it'll make it easier for you to see. And dimensioning, I talked about this dimension tool back in 1101. You may have worked with it. You can try it. Honestly, I find it difficult to work with. I'll just be honest with you. It just never seems to do what I want it to do. The dimensioning tool in Inventor works marvelously. I don't know why the one in AutoCAD doesn't work as well. But let me show you a way that you can bring up a dimensioning toolbar. So, and this goes with your workspace. So if you want to save this kind of a thing, it's not a by file thing, but it's part of your workspace. So on your command line, type menu and then select menu bar. And we're going to change the value for that to 1. Now that adds the old school menu bar up here across the top. Okay, and the reason we have to do that is because the toolbars are not in any of these newer menu tabs. And so we click on Tools and we go to Toolbars and we select AutoCAD. And I want to come up here and select the Dimension toolbar. And see, it opens up this nice little toolbar here. And you can dock it over here on the left, or you can dock it on the right. Okay, and so I'm going to put it there. And then if you right click on it, you can select another toolbar if you like. And honestly, I like having the Object Snap toolbar open. Get it lined up there. And then I like to have the Draw toolbar open also. And you see it dumped it in front of the other one. So I'm going to grab my Dimension one and pull it over here. Now the icons are kind of small, but basically you just click on it and it starts that command. Okay, same way you've got all of your dimension tools here and you don't have to keep hitting the pull down to go through them all. Okay, and in the same way with object snaps, and there's other ways to get to object snaps. When you're working and you don't want to have all of these things turned on, like you may not want to have all of these things turned on, you can just turn on the ones that you use mostly, endpoint, midpoint, center, intersection and extension. Those are fairly common. And then when you need one, like you need a tangent one or a perpendicular, you just come over here and click it while you're in your command. Like say I want a line and I want my line to snap to the quadrant there of a circle. I can come over here and choose the quadrant O snap and then use that. And you see it's a one-time use kind of a thing. Okay. And then to save that, you come down here to workspace and okay, so this migrated from my previous release. You can, if you go into workspace settings, you can automatically save changes. Okay, or you can save it as a new name. I'm just going to do automatically save. Or you can save it as a new name down there and load it and make it your default. Okay. But this way, no matter what drawing you open up, all your toolbar stuff will be over on the side. Okay, so now let's talk dimensions. Let's start with our linear dimensions. And the keyboard command is dim linear, D-I-M-L-I-N. Or you can hit the button here, or on the annotate tab, the pull down right there for linear, either way. Okay, and so where you click is important because if I want to start my dimension here and I really want it to go here, and then I pull out and place it, that gives me this gap between the extension line and the object. That's important because, come on, activate. If you go here and here, you end up with no gap against the object and your extension line is on top of your visible line. And you may not think that makes a difference, but when you print a drawing out, it makes a big difference. It's very visible. Okay, and so doing it again, if we come over to that corner and click, and then I pull up straight up, and if I just type in 0.38 on the keyboard, it will space that 3/8 of an inch off of the object, the last place that I click. Okay. And 3/8 of an inch is the normal distance for the first object, for the first dimension line to be off of the object. And then each additional line, some books say a 1/4 of an inch, some books say 3/8 of an inch. Okay. I think we got our dimension style set up at 3/8 of an inch. I think that's just working off the top of my head. But when you're doing a series of dimensions, it's easier to use the tools than it is to dimension each of these individually. Okay, because if you use the continue tool, it will place them all in a straight line with your first one. And the continue is right here, or you could type in dim continue, okay, or on my keyboard over here, it's right here. And if you just got finished placing a dimension, you just start clicking and going across, okay? And then escape to get out of it. And that puts them all in. But if you did not, let's say I did that and I did some other stuff, and now I want to do a dim continue, I have to select the dimension that I want to use. And so now I could come in and click that one and then start my way across, okay? All right. So the other, let me put that dimension back in here. Is the baseline dimension, and the command for it is dim baseline. Okay, it's the opposite pull down right here under that, or it's in the menu bar right there. And it works the same way. Okay, but you notice it's picking up at the start point of the last dimension that I used. If you notice down in the command line, uh, you can do select to select the dimension that you're wanting to do baseline off of. And you can see this stacks them the correct distance away from the first dimension. It's a whole lot easier to use than trying to do these things manually. Okay. All right. So that's those things. And you know, it works the same way vertically. It all works the same way. If I were dimensioning this thing, all of these vertical dimensions I would place over here on the left side. That way the lines are not coming across the object. Okay. All right. For angles, okay, angles and circles here. So we would want a center line for that, and I'm gonna I'm gonna do the dim center for that. And you notice it puts it on my dimension layer because AutoCAD considers it a dimension entity. Okay, even though it's just lines. But dimensioning to a center of a circle, the location for it, I do a linear dimension from the corner. And if you're doing the 3/8 thing, that's going to kind of throw you off. So we'll start again. I pick where the center line crosses the actual circle. And I come there, and then I come up 0.38, and that places it. And then if you look, we've got what appears to be a continuous line. It's not a continuous line, but it appears that way. And in the textbook, the standards when you're dimensioning to the center of a hole, it should appear that way because the extension line and the center line should become one entity. Okay. For dimensioning angles like this, you would do a linear dimension, and remember an angle needs two dimensions, either two linear or one linear and one angular. Okay, and so I could do like this. Okay, and if the size of the cutout is what's critical, that's what I could do. Or I could go here and here, or any combination of those two. Okay, a linear here and a linear here. It depends on what's critical for the actual part. Okay, and then the angle, you have to go through the pull down here to get to it, or you come right here and click on the menu bar, or the keyboard command is dim angular. And what you're picking is the two lines that are important. And usually you want to pull your dimension outside the object so that the arrowhead is not touching the object itself. Now, sometimes you have to do that because of constraints. There's not enough space or whatever. Sometimes it's okay. Most of the time you want to pull it to the outside. Well, maybe this is the dimension you want, the 45 degree on the outside there. Maybe you want it on the inside. So it's the same way. You pick your two lines that you want. And that's how you deal with, angle dimensions. So we talked about linears here, baseline, continue. We got angles here. We talked about dimensioning location of circles. And aligned dimension, you go here and hit the pull down, you got aligned right there. You got it here in the toolbar over here. Or the keyboard command is dim aligned. All right. And now what this does is it makes your dimension line parallel to the line. And it's unusual. that we would dimension that, but it's not unheard of. And you can click the corners, or when I'm dealing with aligned dimensions, I find the best way to do it um, is I'm just out here and I hit enter on the keyboard, and then I select the actual line itself and I pull my dimension out. I find it easier in dealing with the aligned dimensions if I use the dimension object as opposed to dimensioning the points. Because if you miss the point by a little bit, and I'm going to purposefully miss this and snap to like that node right there, okay, it's still giving me the same value. But if I look at my properties, uh, it actually measures 1.5031. It's just our dimension style is set to two decimal place precision. And it's because I just missed the actual point there. I used the node for that dimension instead. Okay, now with angular dimensions, you can also use baseline and continue. And so I've got this, and I'm going to put in um, an angle between those two lines there. All right, so 25 degrees. Now, this center mark here, I use the center mark tool to create this. And I want to show you a problem that comes up with that. If I want to use the dimension continue or dim continue, and I got to turn my object snap back on. I'm just going to pick the ends of the center lines there so you can see them. Okay, so it continues that across. That was weird. I don't know why it did that. Huh. Anyway, but you see it I don't know why, but it pulled the dimension line all the way down there instead of on this side of the circle. Not sure why it did that. Okay, another thing, if let me take that one out and put it back in again. Okay, and if I use my baseline now, okay, you see it did it again. It pulled that down, but it didn't just pull it down once. It pulled it down every 3 times. And I'm not sure why it's doing that. When I worked through this previously, it was highlighting, my continue didn't do what I wanted it to do. So let's back up there. And let's go continue and select this dimension. And now you can see it put this yellow extension line all the way across back here to the center. I'm not sure why it's doing that. Okay. So let's take those things out and take that out and put a dim center in. Of course, I got it on the wrong layer, didn't I? Okay, now let's try the angle between here and here. Okay, and now we'll try continue. And we can see it's still bringing that extension mark to the opposite side there. I'm not sure why it's doing it, but you'll have to watch that and then you can pull that back. Okay, but the baseline and continue works with angle dimensions also, and you'll see that sometimes in some of the projects or some of the drawings where you've got to dimension multiple angles either between each other or as a baseline, stacking them as it goes around. Okay, so that pretty much covers linear and angular dimensions, and we'll come back later with the rest of them and get you caught up.